now, so I'm just waiting on Angela to join and we'll kick off All Ears ÉIRE episode 2. Now, there we go. Now, invitation sent. Good evening.
Right,
Hi, Angela.
right, 1 second now till I just figure out where this camera
No
is.
bother at all. There's only a few viewers in here now anyway, so hopefully
Now,
they might jump in.
do you know how I put the camera for myself on?
Yeah, work away.
It's not actually showing up here.
Oh,
I done this before now and I can't. Wait now.
I wonder if you click
Oh, wait,
your
now I have
face,
it.
maybe.
I have it.
Good woman.
We have it.
Good woman.
Well, how are you?
Hello.
How's it going?
How are you? Thank you so much for jumping up and being on board to come on All Ears ÉIRE.
No bother,
I
second.
think we need I think people like yourself need to have platforms to be able to tell your story
Yeah.
because it is important, and what you're going through, it's horrendous.
Well, I'm only after posting a video of Nicola and Bring Harry Home. And for anybody out there that's going through Tussla and who haven't been affected to this level,
Yeah.
I'd say there's a lot of people out there that's after triggering them. This is what you call abuse beyond abuse. It's absolutely disgusting. And the pain in her voice. The child was taken from the school, Sasha, from the school, brought over, I think it was to Manchester. Right? She had to go over for visits for 12 months, I think. She said 12 months supervised, and the child screaming to go back to her.
All that's ringing in my head when you're telling me this story, I think of Kyron Dernan and his
Yeah,
mother, how she was
yeah,
found in the UK.
yeah. And see what
That's
most
terrifying, Angela.
to the average person out there, and this is fact, what most people will say is, what did she do?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, what
And
did the
I
mother?
suppose there will be questions to be asked on any case. I think when it comes to children, Tusla, there's always negative comments and there's always positive. For people who've gone through it, they understand that this isn't the easiest of
No.
agencies to deal with, you know.
And
And
they're just they're beyond. An inquiry needs to be done on them. Like seriously, like
absolutely,
to go to make a complaint, even to the Gardaí, to Kuru, to Hikwa, to the
yeah,
ombudsman. Like they have absolutely no power whatsoever.
none.
So I, where I'm at the moment is that I had no other option but to speak out, no other
Yeah,
option at all. So I'll just give you a quick rundown.
yeah.
I'm a recovering addict from heroin. I picked heroin up at 31. I'm clean 10 years.
And
In
congratulations.
between those 10 years, I got lost along the line. Now, my son wasn't removed from me. I placed him with his paternal aunt, and I came back into his life when he was 5. So
Yeah.
I was cognitively functioning after
And
10 years of abuse. I was
you
able,
still made the right choice.
yeah, I
Yeah, like you contacted them.
yeah, and not only that, is his father was dying at the time as well. So I needed to try get myself together, and
Of course.
it I came into my son's life young at 5, and I was looking for some sort of mediation,
Yeah,
reunification, and a process that could happen. Now,
yeah,
not everybody that goes in after drug abuse or actually goes back in after some mental health issues are able to understand all that.
yeah.
Some can't send emails, some don't know how to communicate, right?
Of
So there's
course.
loads of barriers for people in there. So I was able to cognitively get my head in order, get my home back up and running, put a stable home for my son, and try communicate with social workers. Now these social workers think
Yeah.
they're above the law,
Of
and
course.
what they
Yeah.
expect of a parent they couldn't even do themselves. Now most of them are not even parents, so they have no identification. They're just going by the book. They're going by
Yeah.
the process.
It's like the Minister for Children has no children, you know?
Yeah, do you know? Yeah.
Make it make sense, you
Well,
know?
they don't have to feel anything, and they can fight harder up there, and they can do their job really good as well, you know.
Of
But
course.
came into my son's life at 5. It took me nearly 3.5 years to get access in the home. I actually got him into the home for 2 hours, which were very precious. 2 hours with him.
Yeah.
I found that if I asked him how his school was, how his day was, it would go back to the social worker and it'd say that I was interrogating him. So the bond was shut straight away. So rather than mess and ask questions, I kept it very light with him. I used to bake with him. I used to do art with him. I used to bring him off on his bike and just kept it really simple. But I couldn't
Yeah.
bond with him. Wasn't
That's
allowed.
awful though.
Yeah, and it was kind of sad because if you can picture a child in a foster placement, he's trying to keep everybody happy, and I was aware of that, you know. So if I had a concern or a complaint and I brought it to Tusla, and it would be a
Yeah.
valid one, I can't get into too much detail on
Of
it
course,
because I'm
yeah.
looking at 3 years at the moment.
And Angela,
It's different
you've
ends.
already served some time before, haven't you, over this, like?
I've been in prison 6 times due to the in-camera rule. Because what
Shocking.
happened was I had exhausted Tusla, I had exhausted the Gardaí, I
Yeah.
had exhausted the courts. The judge actually told me that I was making up false accusations, right, and was later to
Yeah.
be proved that I wasn't. And I posted a picture of my son. Sorry, my
Yeah.
phone's hopping there.
You're
I
okay.
posted a picture of my son. Um, and listen to this, Sasha. On the same day I was brought to court, right? I was hit with the in-camera rule for posting the picture. I was put in prison for 7 days and a long-term care order, which means all parental rights are
Gone.
gone
Yeah.
due to me speaking out. On my Section 18 form, and anybody out there that doesn't know what that is, that's the reasons as to why your child is taken into long-term care. And the only concern they had was because of the attachment where he was and that I was an irresponsible parent and I didn't think of my son.
And it's shocking because I just want to jump in here and I did take a few notes down.
Yeah.
But I just want to bring you back. Like they pride themselves on their three pillars, and that's people practice and public confidence. And they're shooting you in the foot for
Yeah.
what they pride themselves on.
Yeah. It's
Make it make sense. Do you know what I'm saying?
their rules and their laws are, I believe, they're trafficking children. They're profiting
100%.
from children, and there's massive amount of money. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not great on the statistics and facts. I know Anna Kavanagh is the Alliance of Birth Mothers, has
Yeah.
statistics and facts up there, and you would think people would follow that page and educate themselves, and there's very little traction on it.
No, she
You
was shot
know,
down every step.
yeah. Now Anna's going on her angle. Anna's going in through the political route. I found that councillors and TDs actually have no power either.
Okay.
They have nothing. Now, when I see that woman, Nicola, standing there, and I had been in the same place where she was, and I had fought, I walked the length and breadth of Dublin. I fought tooth and nail. I just didn't care if you put me in prison.
You wouldn't.
Why would you take my son? Why? I was never in prison when I was on drugs.
Exactly.
Won't be in it when I was off
And you
them.
were still making the right choices for the welfare of your child,
But
you know?
to them, I was hurting my son. So where we're at now with my son is he's 15 and he doesn't want to speak to me at the moment. And this is another thing what happens is the brainwashing and the trauma of it all. And because Tusla hasn't got a reunification plan, they can't even heal the family.
Yeah.
There's no money to be made on healing it, so they'd rather just rip it and shred it apart. And it's like the mother and baby homes. And I've always said it, Sasha, they
Yeah.
don't need the mothers now. They just need the
No,
kids. They
that's
just
it.
need
And
the kids.
I'm a firm believer that this system was set up because they had to shut down the mother and baby
Yeah,
homes, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And I think as well, what is coming back to what you said there, how basically they're above everybody. I think why that is because they have literally since January 1st, 2014, they're an independent um they're an independent led identification, you know.
yeah,
So they are basically they they work ahead of everyone because they are their own to make their own rules.
And they're a private company as well. And
Yeah.
the whole you most people out there that are fighting for their children, and they're getting 2 hours access, or the reason they're getting 2 hours access because there's no staff. There's no
Yeah.
plan to rebuild or reunite a family. So when I come up online, Sasha, and I go, "You're not getting your kids back." Now there is a
Yeah.
small percentage that will. They have to be seen to give a small
Yeah.
percentage. But the kids are not coming home. There's kids 3 and 4 in a family are being spread out right across the
Yeah.
country. There's sexual abuse going on in
There
these
is.
homes. There's drug addicts fostering
Yeah.
children. Like, it's disgusting.
I was told by a person in my area in Roscommon that works with Tusla. Now, this is where I want to prove the point as well. They're not all bad people. Some of
No,
them
they're not.
hate
No.
the organization
Yeah.
that they're working under, and like, rightly so. But this lady, two ladies actually from my locality, one told me initially and the other one confirmed what I said to her or what was told to me. And basically there was five House of Horrors, say, up here
Yeah.
where parents were profiting off selling their children for sick appetites. That's the way I'm going to put
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that was five households. There was only ever one example made of it, but there's five, and that was going back from 10 years up until now.
But Sasha, I have seen families, and I've seen foster carers and I mean to say that these kids are still with them in 19, 20, 21. They're driving, they're in college. Like, I see how it works, but it depends on the foster
Yeah.
family. But for a social worker, right, that they know exactly what's going on in there. Now, there is good social workers, but why
Yeah.
aren't they going to speak up?
I think the problem is no more than the Gardaí and so on. They've all been silenced. They're watched, they're marked, and it is shameful. It's sad that they can't express their own beliefs for the best of children, and that's what they've gotten into this job to do. But what I can't understand is why do they continue to do this job if they've seen such corruption?
Like, here's an example for you. The guardian ad litem is meant to be the voice for the child. Now, I got David Foley, he's one of the top best gals, right?
Brilliant.
And there was an investigation done, and they done all they could. And Garrett Noble was his legal advisor at the time. And
Yeah.
he actually told me there is absolutely nothing he can do. And I actually said to him, "What's the purpose of your job if you're in it over 20 years?" I said, "And you get no results.
Yeah.
Why
And it's
would you
funny
do
because
that?"
they will tell you that the aim of Tusla is to always reunite the families.
Well, we can see that's like
you know
it's
and like as you were saying about the laundering of the children, like 37 children missing
yeah.
out of state care only this year, or that's marked of. That's too many. One is too many.
One is too many. And to say, like, it's not just Irish children, right? This has been happening for generations.
Yeah.
Children that have been
Generations.
sold by nuns all over
Yeah.
Australia, America, all over the world,
Yeah.
and they're back looking. So it's just history repeats itself.
And
And
it does.
like, it's not going to take like Nicola or me or somebody. It has to be a collective. There
Yeah.
has to be. See, so many people are afraid to even speak out because the access will be removed. You will be hit with long-term care orders. They'll hit you with the in-camera rule, and a lot of people are not able. And then there's a lot of people with mental health issues. They have
Yeah.
smaller kids. They haven't the
Yeah.
time to do all that.
And every step you take, no matter how right it is, they tell you you're wrong you know
Well, I've had only that I was able to speak up for myself, Nicola. I had a social worker at my door one day telling me that you'll never get back your child. I've had her tell me, Sasha, after 2 years of being clean, I looked a bit tired one morning. Wait till you hear this. And this is no lie. You look a bit tired, Angela. I had a drug key worker at the time who came to the home. We issued emails, letters. I got on great with her.
Brilliant.
Um, she had told the social worker that Angela's fine. I had to go and do a hair strand test, right, up in Dublin, right? And I came back and I lost nearly a month's access waiting for that reply.
Yeah.
Because this social worker is not a drugs counsellor, decided just to say that I looked a little bit off or tired.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's the
shocking.
power to have.
It is shocking, and it's just like Lauren, who I was speaking with last night. Like, she had social workers come in, and like basically tried, because her child has autism, and they tried to say that she wasn't looking after her child because the child wouldn't wear the autistic specialist shoes. The child still had shoes on his feet, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Now, not even get even into kids being vaccinated.
Yeah,
Like when your parental rights are gone, and no matter if you fight through the courts, and which I did, my son is still vaccinated, and that's it.
yeah,
He's state owned, and they're used to me as a guinea pig.
yeah. And I can
Like,
vouch this as well, because my own godfather was dropped on the door of a church years ago,
ah,
and he has a stammer as a result of being tested on as a child.
yeah, yeah. It's just it runs so deep, Sasha, as you know. Like it's sick what's been done to
Horrible.
children. Like sick,
It's
beyond sick.
heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because they literally got rid of the old system to avoid all of this. And they just rebranded, renamed, and carried on doing the same thing they'd been doing for years, since De Valera times.
But I believe that there's I believe back in our parents' generation, their mindset was so different. We're evolving very quickly, I think.
I
Me
think
a
so.
bit later date. Like, look at you. Like, look at the work you're doing. I don't know what age you are, but like, you're a firecracker. Like,
Yeah.
no, but you're well in tuned and
But
you're
it's women
great
like
attainments.
ye. I've grown up with a lot of people who have suffered a lot of
Yeah,
systematic abuse
yeah,
throughout their lives, and I'm fed up of looking at it. I am.
yeah,
I'm fed up of seeing broken hearts and sad faces
yeah.
over
And
something that could have been prevented. Like, if someone like yourself is going ahead and making these conscious decisions for the benefit of your child, and they shun you for it, it's
and
wrong.
it's, do you know who's suffering really, because we're old enough to kind of mentally able to get ourselves together. But like if they had worked with me, I could have stopped that trauma when
Yeah.
he was 5. And I remember I sitting in the social worker room one day, Sasha, and she says to me, "When he's 18, you can get your files and read them to him." And I turned around and I said to her, "My intention when my son comes back to me would not be that. I want to love whatever's in him
Yeah.
out of him, and no matter who hurt him or who said anything bad about me, I would not feed him back in any more badness. I would just try to love what I needed out of him,
Yeah.
and
And it's
not carry on the hate then."
Yeah, see, it's awful, and that's going back 10 years now, you know.
Yeah.
And like we're saying, this is not a new thing. Like, it's not new. There's nothing new about this. Like, this cruelty towards families or separating families has been going on for a long, long time. And I know many mothers like yourself who tried to work with them, and they wouldn't work with them, with the mother, you know, or the family.
Like I had Kathleen Function
Yeah,
mediating, doing the emails through me. Like I got a queer lot of support, a queer lot of help. Nothing
yeah,
happens. Nothing. You can scream from the rooftops.
yeah.
Literally. The only way I see now at the moment, if there was some sort of legislation change and lift the fucking in camera, excuse my French, lift that
Right.
in camera rule and
Yeah,
let the public in. I mean to say we're going in on our own. You're not allowed supports. The same as when you go into the Tusla offices. I made it my business that I got support. I had my key worker in, and when we started pushing hard, she was told she was not allowed into these rooms anymore.
wow. And you know, I've seen it myself in court here in Roscommon as well. There's a family who chose to homeschool their children. They have
Yeah, that's
five
right.
kids, I think, and they chose to homeschool their children, and their child benefit was taken away from
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
And they had all their paperwork in line, ready to go. Tusla were there. The family were very well spoken. They presented themselves perfectly,
yeah.
perfectly, and the judge laughed at Tusla. The judge actually, and that was just luck, but there was
Yes,
a good
yeah,
judge on that day, and the judge laughed Tusla out of that courtroom. Now, I don't know how it ended. That was only the
yeah.
startings of the proceedings, you know. I left them to their privacy. But we took in a few minutes of the case, and I saw the man stand up, the father of the family, and he had all of his paperwork there, and he was so professional and
Yeah,
perfectly
yeah,
presented that I was so proud of him. Even my
I
own
know.
mother, we walked out the
Yeah.
courtroom and we went, they're fine. They're
Like
fine.
that reminds me, like, and I said it in one of my videos, my father's 70 odd, and my son Fionn used to go every week, every Thursday, right? And then all of a sudden it stopped, and they fought hard for overnights and they didn't get it. So we made an application anyway, me and my
Yeah.
dad. made the application into the court. He represented himself, puts on his Crombie
Yeah.
jacket, his suit,
Same as
and
this man.
he was shaking and his
Yeah.
mouth was dry and he needed to have his say. And he
Yeah.
told the judge, I'm tired. I'm tired at looking at my grandson not being able to relax. He needs to know who his family is. And the judge had ordered overnight access. And that happened for a couple of months. And then this is what happens. And people are going to identify with this. They said Fionn doesn't want to go anymore. Like, where does that come from? Being there all his life, where does that come from?
They're putting words in the children's mouths now at this stage,
Yeah,
or pretending that they've said it, and then telling the child, "Oh, sorry, they're not having you this week."
yeah.
They
And
caused the divide.
the
No more.
sad reality, Sasha, is my son thinks I'm trying to hurt him. Um, I hope when he gets to 18 or 19 or maybe 20, when he kind of wakes up a little bit,
Mhm.
um, that he can see himself. I believe he knows what the truth is. I believe he just
He's
has
not
to keep
allowed.
it. He
He's
has
not
to
allowed
keep
to
it
believe
intact
it.
at the
Yeah.
moment. Now, he seems to be a lovely kid. I don't know his shape. If I see him downtown, if you seen your kids in the town or
Yeah.
walking, you know their little walk or their shape. I don't know his shape. I don't know his character anymore.
That's not fair, Angela.
And
That's not
how?
fair.
Yeah, but how they can, and I see people, Sasha, up online, right? Oh, I'm getting 2 hours visit, and I'm getting this, and I'm going, what the fuck?
Mm.
I'm getting another week next week, and they're going to push for this. I've asked people online, show me the reunification plan
Yeah.
that Tusla has given you and the paperwork that goes along with it. Please
Yeah.
show me.
Yeah.
And some people, because I've been there, they'll believe that it's going to happen. They
Yeah.
actually,
It's all false hope, smoke and mirrors.
but you have to go through it to believe it.
I understand. Yeah, that's what me and
You
Lauren were
know.
saying yesterday. It's nearly like something has to hit you in the face before you go, okay. And that's sad because too many of us have been hit in the face.
Yeah, and it's only then you kind of like I realized when I was in the courts when
Yeah.
the judge actually told me that I was vindictive, I was a disgrace of a mother, um, and that I don't deserve any. And I stood there and I didn't believe it. I'd be very strong headed, and I
Hmm.
just was blown away. I couldn't believe
I
it.
know.
I was like, the fuck, what's
That's not the
happening
first
here?
time you'd hear a story like that either, because I have a friend and she fell pregnant at 16 in state care. And they initially or immediately tried to take her
Yeah,
child away from her
yeah,
because it was born under state care or
yes,
whatever.
yeah,
But thankfully, even though this girl was taken into care, her family were still beside her fighting her battles. And they went to court. And thankfully, like that again, there was a good judge on that day. And
yes,
he said, and it wasn't all that good, really and truly, but she was 16 years old, and the judge ordered her up. The only way that the judge could balance the trial, say, was to
yeah,
send her up to Monaghan to a mother and baby's home that was still running, which is 18, 19 years ago. And she done 6 weeks of a qualified mommy course basically.
right,
Now she finished that course in 2 weeks and they let her home because they said there was no worry here.
yeah,
But regardless or not, that's only 18 to 19 years ago that they were sending women up the road to
yeah.
prove that you are a mother. What
I
the judge said on the day was that this woman hasn't had a chance to be a mother and you're already writing her off.
Well, thank God.
Thank
I
God.
went to, I went, I had 6 visits to Bresborough in Cork. You know Bresborough, don't you?
I
And what they
haven't
do
actually.
is they do a psychological evaluation, a geometrics evaluation, and kind of a cognitive one. And I
Right.
travelled up and down for 6 weeks. And this Bresborough report, I think now, don't quote me on this, cost 14,000 for Tusla to pay, right? I couldn't even get a copy of this. Now, in that report, they had no problems with me. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
None.
Naturally though.
They wanted access to be reinstated and to progress. And when I asked for this copy, I tried every way possible to get a copy of this and I couldn't get it. Now the only way I can get anything that I need is through criminal. So people used to say to me, "Why are you going back into court?" I used to gather a lot of information going into jail and coming back out criminally.
Yeah.
It's the only way you can get it. You can't
And
get it in the family law.
it's so true. Like it's sad, but the convicted would nearly give you better legal advice than any solicitor out there.
I would love, I would love my next little, because I need to have my teeth into something.
Yeah.
Now, when I get this bit over me, I'm hoping it'll be struck out. I have a good feeling it will.
Yeah.
Get
It
this
should.
out of the way, and I personally want to take a social worker up. Now, that's another fight. That could go on for years and years and years.
But you
But,
have a right to do that.
but I
You
will
are
learn.
allowed to do that.
I will educate myself. I will fight tooth and nail. Probably won't win, right? Might be just my
Yeah.
time. Someone else might come after me and they might
Yeah.
get, and then they can set precedent, you know? And
Yeah.
hopefully, and it's like that woman, Nicola. Like, I'm
Mm.
looking at her there and she's gonna have some fight on her hand. And if she doesn't be careful, she needs to mentally mind herself. She
Yeah.
needs to stay away from the doctor.
Yeah.
Keep away from the doctor because Tusla will go into her doctor records.
They will, of
Like,
course.
you have to have everything squeaky clean.
Absolutely. And it's the same with anyone who goes through any court trial. Your medical notes and that are all accessible.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that in mind as well. But in terms of this lady and her fight, or in terms of you and your fight and going to court against a social worker, an individual social worker, you have every right to take them in the public and the private sector. Every
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
And you can represent yourself because the minute that you take legal aid is the minute that they
I
have you.
know. 100. Listen, I went through the legal aid system. I even at one point they were charging, what was it, 150, 130, and we were able to get a waiver. And I was after this was on another page. I was
Yeah.
telling people there's a waiver form you can get. You don't have to pay the full amount if if you weren't working at the time, and you can get it reduced to €30. But even at that, right? Even at that,
Impossible.
right? They do absolutely nothing because the state is paying. That's where their bread and butter is. They're not going to
Yeah.
go against Tusla.
No.
But you have to
And
go through it to see it. You know?
exactly. And I've seen friends, I've seen yourself struggling through it, and I've seen that other family in the courtroom that day. And it's just horrible what the way they scrutinize you up there and provoke you into trying to say something that's not in your character.
Do you know what's very hard, Sasha? And a lot of people will identify with this. The false reports they make up on parents. It's
Yeah.
their version. It's their narrative. Whatever slots in. Anything to keep the mother and child apart.
It's horrible.
Anything. And the false allegations is you do be baffled. You're like, what?
You would be, yeah, I can only imagine.
And this
But
you
it's
have to
criminal. It's
understand.
criminal what they are doing. Like,
Social workers, I put on my last social worker, Colette Ryan is her name. I followed her with cameras. I went into the Tusla offices. I got her coming out of the Tusla offices. I got her car. I got her reg. I followed her everywhere, and she was put principal social worker on my case. So, are you telling me there wasn't a personal vendetta? Are you telling me
exactly.
she didn't hold some sort of a grudge with me because that camera was stuck in her face,
Yeah.
literally? Now,
Yeah.
people used to say to me, that's a terrible thing to do,
No,
right? And I said, well, she's able to take my son and tell me that I'm not
exactly. And
putting
that's
on.
just it. Like, what were you supposed to do? You're a woman who's trapped into a corner. It's either jail. You have no options. You know what I mean? That's your children. That is your future, your legacy, and they're stepping in, taking control, and telling you what you can and can't do.
Here's one for you. Look at all the patriots out there fighting. And the ones that are pushing really, really hard, they will be either hit in the pocket
Yeah.
to stop them or they're going to be thrown into jail.
And that's just it. And
And
that's what I said as well
you
yesterday, that
hate,
we'll probably all end up sectioned or in prison.
depending how hard you're punching.
And
When
that's
you punch hard, now that's on that level. Then we have another hurdle then with the social media aspect of it. My YouTube was taken down, a court order from Tusla. Not my Twitter, my Facebook, many Facebooks, the Twitter or the TikTok. I don't know how I'm still up.
yeah.
I say they're waiting to see will I slip and gather
Yeah.
some evidence, probably. But I've
Probably.
learned to master how to talk
Well, you
after
do.
6 times. I used
But
to
that's
just,
it. It's all trial and error. But you're looking,
yeah,
they're not trialing and error in this because they're doing it every day.
yeah, just,
That's the reality of it. And can I ask you, Angela, the lady who's over Tusla is Kate Duggan. Has she
Yeah.
reached out to you at all?
No, see, I haven't kind of touched base. The only
Yeah.
correspondence, and here's another thing, Sasha, which is very important for people out there. They need to communicate through email. They
Okay.
need all correspondence through email. You need a paper trail. I've 8 years of a
Yeah.
paper trail. Now, I've had dealings with Bernard Gloucester. I've had communication with Bernard Gloucester. I just have no use for Tusla anymore. It's just gone, unless it's something that I need
Yeah.
to, I might go next month to put a bit more pressure on them about something else.
Yeah.
But other than that, no.
It's absolutely embarrassing though to think that the head of the agency wouldn't reach out to you though, when you've been through it so often, so many times, you've
See, if
stepped
I
up to
wander
face them.
afraid, I'm going to record them. There's a lot as well in the court that they won't give me paperwork. I have to sit down. Now, you have to do this in family law. You're not allowed any paperwork. You're only allowed to sit down and read it. In criminal, I have to fight for full disclosure. I
Right.
have to fight for some of it because if I'm
Yeah.
building a case, I need to know every bit of that case.
Yeah.
So they're saying that there's certain, now there is in disclosure, there's certain third party and there's stuff that you can't get, but I have to fight for most because they're afraid I'm going to post it on social media. Now I don't put documents up, never did, but they're afraid of what I put out, you
And
know.
once again, they pride themselves on public confidence.
And it's the same thing. I would love the work you're doing is amazing. It's having the mentality, right? No matter what views you have, what views I have, to stay level together,
Yeah.
right? And to join together. And young girls need to see that,
Yeah, they do. And this is the
because
thing. I think they're so quick to jump down someone's throat or remind you of your mistakes. When we all have made mistakes, it's why they put rubbers on pencils.
exactly. And the even with me protesting over the years, people get into conflict
Yeah.
and it's very disheartening, because you
Yeah.
see someone kind of rising up a bit, and then someone comes in and wants to destroy it. We're
Yeah.
destroying our own selves.
We are. And this is a big issue that we're facing here moving forward. Trying to expose all of this, put it to bed, and just start afresh. What worries me though, when it comes to the likes of these agencies, is like we've been there, we've done that, we've tried it, we've started again. What do you feel going forward is is the best way to go?
I'm at the moment. Now, this is where we're at the moment. I'm trying to gather, just say 10 women.
Yeah.
Now, it's not just, and this is no disrespect to anybody, 10 functioning women
Yeah.
who've after been through horrendous trauma that are still
Yeah.
able to stand on their 2 feet, right? To try get paperwork together that
Yeah.
we can actually get the likes of Catherine Connolly or somebody and
Yeah.
try get legislation changed. Now, the job in that in itself, because some people, like myself, are not great with paperwork.
Yeah.
To sit down and write down something, it's next to near impossible. You have to recap and you have to put it in chronological order.
Okay.
Right. Now, I have a woman, Fiona Gregg, absolutely amazing. Now, there's only so much she can do as well. She's been through this as well. She's a
Yeah.
barrister. So it's just, I believe people have the fight in them, but they don't want to put the work in.
I'm starting to think though that there's just this bit of a toxicity, say, in today's society, and when they hear Tusla, they automatically think, oh well, that's the parents' fault.
Well, this is without saying. I've done videos on it. You put up a video, and the first thing they think of, and this
Yeah.
is how narrow and dumbed down people are. Well, they have to have done something. Tusla wouldn't take it, even though they've seen the mother and baby homes.
Yeah.
They haven't expanded their mind out to even think that that's just a different name on a different thing. This is a private company that's selling children. They don't get it.
I'd like to know, would those toxic people with that mentality on Tusla, would they say the same now to the children who are coming out of those organisations and speaking up, or who are in the organisation and speaking up?
I think I think it's mostly just it's not even it's not even a question. It's just bitches just
Yeah.
don't really care,
Yeah.
or maybe they're coked one night out of their head, and you get a lot of
Yeah.
trolling on a Friday, Saturday night. Now, for some reason, I'm not being trolled much It's how you handle it. You're in
Yeah.
control of your page. You're in
Yeah.
control of what comes in and out of the traffic. You know, block it.
Exactly.
Give it a little bit of room, or maybe put up one or two
Yeah.
stupid comments, and then you kind of go,
Yeah.
well, there we go. This is what we're dealing with.
And it's just, it's not even funny at this day, and like at this day and age, people are literally trying their best to just put things in proper order and move on and put the corruption to bed. And it's those little people who come onto your page with no profiles and their number 375 or whatever.
Yeah.
They're literally achieving nothing. They could have just scrolled on by your page and moved on.
See, Sasha, I can identify with that because I was one of them years ago. My mind only expanded out so far. I
Okay.
knew nothing about protesting when I got clean. I knew
Yeah.
nothing. And it wasn't just the drugs. Had I not been on drugs, it probably wouldn't have been in my radar either,
Yeah.
you know, because I wasn't affected with
Yeah.
anything really at the time as I thought. But I've, I forget what I was saying now. I forget what I was saying. God, no.
I'll ask you another thing here anyways, but
Yeah,
the 37 missing children,
yeah.
like they've no answers for that. Like they don't seem to be beckoned to answer.
No, they don't have anyone to answer to.
Okay.
There's no one. Who have they to answer to?
But
They're going into court,
does
right?
HICWA not face them? No.
All HICWA does is does an investigation down into the premises, each wherever they're located. They
Okay.
do up a number, they get the statistics and facts, and they say, well, this needs to be. So what they're doing is they're actually preparing to us to
Yeah.
clean up all that,
Yeah.
and
And I
that's
can
it.
vouch for this as well because my own mother works for the HSE and she manages a facility centre as well. And they always get warning when they're coming.
Yeah,
So it's like smarten up or don't. And I think that's ludicrous because like anywhere else, say a chipper, they'd
yeah,
be walked in on with no notice.
exactly. It's mad, isn't it?
It
Isn't
makes
it
no
mad?
sense, like.
Now, think of the Garda veteran, right?
Yeah.
Right, listen to this. There's grandparents out there fighting for their grandchildren and they're told they're too old, right?
Yeah.
But yet they're placing them in older places as well, right? Because of the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no guard of vetting done on
No.
99% of the foster carers. There's children still living with drug addicts.
Yeah. I
They're
know.
being sexually abused in the home. Tusla's
Yeah.
covering it up.
And I know this is true because I know a young lad up the road from me, and like that, he was put into care because his own mother had drinking problems, and he wasn't that young. He was about 14 when he went into care, but they placed him into a facility, into a home, like a shared
Yeah.
accommodation, and there was not one Irish person, not one English speaking person in that facility. They
Here in
all spoke
Ireland.
their own language all over this boy. This boy absconded so much to the point where he didn't feel safe in these places. There was people who made sexual advances towards him or just made him uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
he was absconding and running away off to his friend's house, and he actually has been brought before the courts for doing that.
Mad, isn't it? And he'll
He's
be his
he's 17,
destiny.
like.
His destiny is what?
That's what, you know what I mean? You have to look at it that way. They're going to send him up before the judge and they're going to literally just punish him to a life of whatever he has to do to survive.
When I was in prison, and the amount of girls, the stories I heard, it will never leave me. I'll never ever. From girls who grew up with addiction, girls whose parents were in addiction, whose parents suffered with mental health, just mental health,
Yeah.
couldn't cope. They were swiped off. They went through the system, right?
Yeah.
Some of them were locked in the rooms because they were troubled children and they were drugged and sedated to keep them quiet. They weren't allowed out of these rooms.
And God knows what happens to a child when they're sedated.
Well, it's what happens. It's mentally. You go to a different place, but the long term effect is addiction, benzos,
Yeah.
medication from the doctor because it's either that or withdrawals.
Escape. It's all a form
Or
of escape and
but then they go
mechanisms,
out onto the street and then they'll go to street drugs.
Yeah. And that's just it. But like the doctors these days as well are very quick to prescribe than actually treat.
Well, we know today that doctors are one of the biggest drug dealers in Ireland,
Yeah.
all over the place. I wouldn't
Yeah.
go near a doctor. I
No.
don't go for hormone replacements. I don't go
Yeah.
for medications. I don't go for blood tests. I don't go for now. It's easy to say that because I'm actually okay.
Yeah.
But here's one for you. Have a look to the people out there. Have a look at what's inside your parents' medication bag.
Yeah. That's a shocker. That's a big shocker. Or your grannies, whoever. Like, look and dig deep. Even just go to your medical press there and you'll find some
Crazy, like.
crazy, crazy stuff.
And what it is, it's a band-aid on the problem. And later on, then in life, you've got diabetes, Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
and then with the autism, I believe that vaccines have done that to kids as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you on that one. And then they're saying with the vaccines
There's
now
so
that it's
much,
all
isn't there?
it's all AIDS, like it's a manufactured AIDS, you know?
But if you look at that as a whole, just say in Tusla, the problems, like how would you ever solve or fix that? Where do you start?
This is what I'm asking you. I'm confused
Like,
myself. I wouldn't know where to start because you could say relaunch, rebrand, start fresh. We've done that.
see, the old system and the old thinking doesn't work. People are not listening to it anymore.
Yeah.
They're not buying it. Young girls even today are going in and they're standing up for themselves because
Yeah.
I think the way social workers speak to young girls who have
Yeah.
actually came from deprived backgrounds and the
Yeah.
way they speak to them and the way they make them walk and standing beside them down in the park and
Yeah.
like it's disgusting.
It's
And
not
these
just social workers though who are doing that because I
no,
have my own
no,
experience of when I had my first child. I was 21 years old. I'm only 5'2" anyways, you know.
yeah, I'm small
But I
myself.
was, there you go, and I was even frailer back then, and I looked
Yeah,
probably a lot more. I was
yeah,
clueless. I was clueless. First baby, clueless.
yeah.
Sitting there, my first 5 minutes left alone. My mom had gone up to the shop along with my partner. They were going up getting bits for me. In comes this elderly nurse, and she says to me, she goes, she didn't even say hello. She goes, has the social worker been into you yet? I said, sorry, why? Why would a social worker be here? Like, I've never had one in my life. She says, oh, an unmarried child like yourself having a child. Of course they'll be into you,
No
you
way.
know? Now, thankfully, I rang my mother. I said, get up here now because she works in them systems herself, like, but they waited for the first 5 minutes for me to be left alone and be kind of sitting there bewildered, looking at the baby myself, taking it in what I'm after. I'm after giving birth, you know? And to be hit with a comment like that, then not even a hello or do you need anything, it was, has the social worker been into you yet?
Mental.
And that just shows you the
Devastating.
hospital are setting people upon these young people
When
who
I
they feel.
was I was speaking out at one stage as well, and my son and his girlfriend had little Aria, and someone had reported that there was abuse or she fell and whatever, and I got up onto the phone and I'm not calling you Sasha. I said, if you dare come near one of my grandchildren or my family, I said,
Yeah,
with false accusations, you go
yeah,
do your work. And thank God
yeah,
I was able to tell my son's girlfriend, if that ever happens, you ring me
yeah,
because there's nobody going to go near them. Now, she froze with the fright.
yeah.
She's not used to it.
That was me. That
Yeah.
was me. I relate to that.
And that's what they do, they freeze you.
Yeah. And it's punishing. It punishes you as a young mother as it is. And I also had a health nurse as well who came into my house and basically told me that my dog was going to eat the baby. I have to maintain my social life. Um, how
Yes,
I'm so
load of
young
crap, yeah.
to have a
It's like you're some sort
baby.
of a child, yeah.
Yeah, how
No,
I'm so
no.
young to have a baby. And this health nurse I'm speaking of in particular was actually married to Dennis Naughton TD at the time,
Right.
and yeah, so that just says it all. You know,
Yeah. Isn't it mad?
it's crazy. They're all the one. They're
So
all connected.
my social worker, the first social worker, I had her for a couple of years, ended up I was going to a counsellor and she was married to him.
Yeah.
Like she was married to him and I was there giving out about her.
But
But
it's like Sean Meehan's case as well, down
yeah,
in Tipperary right now.
God, poor man.
Exactly.
Oh
And
my
you know,
God.
with the sister and the brother, the judge is the brother and the sister works in the council.
Yeah, it's mental. I know.
That should be thrown out as well.
Now I think what's going to happen there is they're going to make an example of him.
I feel so too.
And I think, do you know, of all the fighting Sasha goes on, sometimes I do say to myself, great patriots out there, they're all fighting and fighting. Everybody has their
Yeah.
own fight. I get that, right?
Yeah.
But for an elderly man, I can see him. He's. Could you imagine the stress he's under?
the man bought his own land, he built his own
Yeah.
home, and they want to just burn it down, and they're bringing everyone in on no man's land,
Here, let's house the refugees.
you know? And now we're off to war because of it.
And wouldn't you think some of the Irish people would say, well, like they're housing all the Ukrainians and they're housing this. Why would they do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I had someone in my comments today tell me that oh, why would they buy bulletproof vests for the pets? I said, I'm not on about that. You're taking me up wrong. I'm saying they allocated money to bring the pets home. Are they bulletproof?
Right, yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
make it
no, I
make
know.
sense. People just have no common sense these days, and I think that as well is lacking. I don't know, is it just pure
See, I think
evilness?
everybody is at their own level of
Yeah,
growing, and they have their own conditioning, whatever they were
yeah.
conditioned. It's like someone going to college now. Could you imagine sitting down talking to someone? I'd be like,
No.
they're just being programmed into whatever they're going to
And
be.
it's so true because if you even look at the like we take everything from America or Britain.
Yes,
We can
yeah,
just like call that a fact. We copy them two countries
yeah,
profusely. And we look at the Ponzi schemes and Jeffrey Epstein, and he worked in Harvard and had his own Ponzi scheme to condition people's
yeah,
brains into
yeah.
how to launder money, assets, people, everything.
It's the same thing as well when you look at the video games with kids, right? And I was only talking to my son the other night about it, and he
Yeah.
said, "Jesus, man!" Like I said, they're not just playing it though; it's being programmed into them.
Yeah.
Now, there's a little girl in Carlow who died, and I'm not going to get into the details,
Okay.
into my granddaughter's school, and it was just shocking. 11 years of age. It's not my place to say what happened, but my
Okay.
God, the poor little 11.
It's shocking though, but I've also been told as well by another lady today that she's having a reoccurring problem in one of the Dublin schools with her children. I don't know how many, but she says they've all had an experience, but she doesn't know, is it just her child or is it just her school, the children's school that she attends, or is this a common problem throughout the country now? But she has found that the new arrivals children, shall we say, or I don't know, is it other children? But what she said to me was
Yeah.
that the new arrivals children, she's had multiple incidences now where one of her children required stitches last week, and the school told her that it was just a bump on the head. When she went to collect her child, they took the ice pack away. They needed urgent care stitches. And the child or the school denied this. 2 months prior to that, one of her female children were bitten by a male,
Mm.
and the schools are trying to then tell her not to worry, this is all under control. How is it under control and your child is coming out and needing stitches and they're telling you your child is fine, it's a bump on the head?
See, I think when you bring different cultures into society, into Ireland, and and I'm not racist. You have to
No,
say that. You have to say that because people
I
think you
know.
are. You've got a lot of trauma from their parents, and they have their own history.
Yeah,
And there's different levels of trauma. There's different levels of
yeah,
fights, and a lot of these are coming over, and they're fighting. Some of them for their lives. They're fighting each other for their lives.
yeah,
And if you see the 11-year-old that was the stabbing here in Ireland in the school,
yeah. It's
like
shocking, no, and that's just why I'm
it
bringing it
was
up. It's like,
fists years ago with the
I don't
boys.
know, is it that these people are being radicalized at home? Now, I know Irish children go into the schools as well and cause as much trouble for anybody,
Yes,
anybody. But
we've a whole
11
different
incidents,
type.
just going back to this school as well, this lady told me there's been 11 incidences just with her own children in the space of the last 2 months.
Jesus.
And the school keeps telling her it's not to worry, it's all under control.
But then again, it's really down to the parent and the individual how hard you push.
And that's it as well. Now, this lady she's pushing hard, but
Yeah.
she's at the stage now where she doesn't know to just take the kids and homeschool them or put them into another school because either way you can't win. They'll
I
cut
tell
your
you,
allowance.
if I had my way, Sasha, I'd homeschool my kids. I
With
really
the
would.
way things are going now in the books, it's a hard thing to face, but it might be the only way. But my fear is that they are. My fear is now what they are doing is they are punishing these families if they do choose to do that by taking their child benefit or whatever. And anybody who knows if you're going to be home with your children 24/7, trying to give them an education, you're going to rely on that money.
Yeah, basically,
You
yeah.
know.
It's all form of control.
Yeah.
Just control everything. I didn't realize how much I was controlled either.
None of us do.
And especially when I spoke out, Sasha, I just couldn't what is wrong? What do you mean? I used to go, why can't I? What's this? Why doesn't the judge listen? I was just,
Because the judge is there to do his job, and it's not even his job he's doing. He has to run it for the state.
well, it was lovely chatting with you, Sasha.
No bother at all,
And
Angela.
listen,
For popping up onto All Ears ÉIRE, and everything that you've said has been 100% spot on, and the nation is with you in your fight.
as we all are together, that's what's important, that we all stick together. And
100%,
we'll meet
Angela.
each other on the journey another time,
Oh,
and
we
we just,
definitely will.
you know,
And I'm sure I'll be speaking to you down the line again.
hopefully.
No problem.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Angela.
Bye bye.
Bye now.